Ramachandra Padaje Sharanam Mangalamurti Marutanandan Sakala Mangalamuranikandan Mangalamurti Marutanandan Sakala Mangalamuranikandan Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram
One, two, three. Check. I'll lower it a little bit.
She's a klepto. You know it. She's a klepto. I've known it. I haven't ever said it. A little bit of high Ram, high Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna.
So we'll remain in awareness for a little while. Also, I'd like to thank Elizabeth and Kate and Skip, who went to the monastery in Wabajas Falls this weekend and did fantastic work. I was talking to one of the lamas later, and it was so helpful what they did in terms of working with all the members of the monastery. Really, thank you guys so much. Yeah. So we'll suspend our mind like we always do, just a tiny bit. Just enough to free awareness, to be located in its own self. Shifting from becoming located in our mind, or making that shift from becoming aware of mind to aware of awareness itself. In the last couple of weeks, we spent a lot of time with the quality of purity. It's said in the Christian Gnostics and Christian Gospels. Blessed are those who are pure of heart, for they shall see God. It's one of the great, the Gnostics took that and made it a central focus. The purity of awareness allows us to experience the purity of being itself, since it is being itself. I think most of the paint fumes should be gone, but if by chance you're still picking up some, you're welcome to go upstairs. If you have a strange sense of dizziness, eyes rolling back.
You always have it.
Tom's poems have been fantastic, Elvate. Just really right on. So, just a little bit more about that for a few moments, and we'll continue with our little practice. When the Dzogchen tradition was being formed, it was primarily being formed in Tibet. Already in India, Buddhism was formed in the 5th century, and they had these different movements from the first 4 centuries or so. It was the the teachings of the Four Noble Truths, and then there was a change with Narguna, opened it up to the cosmological level, though nothing much could be said about it. Then around the 4th century, you had that Tantra, Tata Tantra, where they began realizing that this whole world is cosmological, and there is this primordial awareness that's manifesting everything and anything, and then that seed, that little seed is in everyone, and if you practice, then it becomes complete. Then the 8th century in Tibet, the Godapa Tantra was formed, and there's other tantras, and it was arising out of Tibet itself, and arising out of the Bon tradition, which had been there for centuries, and it was also very shamanistic, and also it had its own form of Dzogchen that arose in the early centuries, in the 6th, 7th, and 8th. Padmasambhava comes along. So you have this mixture taking place in Tibet. And then in the 11th century and 10th century, you have this great movement from India of all the Buddhists coming to Tibet because things were becoming uninhabitable in India, because of the Muslim attacks and killing, and they were primarily killing monasteries. Little villages didn't mean that much. Monasteries had wealth and buildings, and that's where they went. And then, so there was a movement into Tibet, and with that you start having the Nyingma lineage was already there, the old lineage, and then in the 11th century you start having the new lineages come, the Kagyu and the Gelugpa and all these other traditions. And also in Tibet there was an interaction between the Kazimir Shaivistic masters and the early Dzogchen masters, and this is really well documented more and more and more. Hi, welcome. The power of the intermatching between Kazimir Shaivism and Dzogchen. I remember my own life when after Baba Muktananda died, and I stayed for a while in the Siddha Yoga, but then I found things changing and a lot, almost immediately. Then I wanted to find the same experience, the same tradition, and it wasn't Vedanta for me or things like that, and just but eventually someone mentioned the word Dzogchen, and so they mentioned that word, it opened up. So, but there's a direct interface of Kashmir Shaivism, the Tantras of Abhinagunta, and this. It's like most things, we always learn things with other people, right? And in the early Dzogchen tradition, is people would shift, just like we shift, and become aware of their own awareness. One of the first things they began to experience and put to words was the word kadag, or kadig or kadag, which means purity. And so as we focus in, and sometimes it's helpful to hear what to look for, what to look for, was the experience of purity. Unbound, open, sky-like purity. Though it's very hard to define. The last time I gave out some papers, or we sent some out, one was the history of purity. And in the history of purity, a lot of time religions are very preoccupied with purity, Purity of status, purity of what you eat. Purity is a big thing. But the very history of purity, there was never the history of the natural purity of awareness, right? If you go through that whole history, it's a very scholarly thing. But in Dzogchen, as in Shaivism also, the purity of awareness, of one's own awareness. Unconditional purity, unowned, just focus there. Purity of heart, meaning also we shift from our mind into the heart. Hridayam in the Dzogchen and also in the Shaivite tradition. Hridayam centered, the purity of heart. We also know, according to Herbert Gunther and other scholars, that Dzogchen was also influenced by the Christian Gnostics and their theology of light. So in early forms of Buddhism, you have a lot about emptiness, just emptiness, but not about light, right? And as the Dzogchen starts arising, that primordial awareness is both openness, sunyata, and light and oneness, radiance. And from that radiance, everything and anything is created, And that same radiance, that same awareness, is in us as our own subjectivity. You with me? Have that same awareness that manifests, but it's contained in mind and body and historical circumstances and cultures. But as we become aware of awareness, we stand in front of that door, we knock on that door, and then it opens. And when we do these practices, like we'll be talking about archetypes today, we like to think they're skillful means, but really and truly, it's a relational experience to the field of being itself. And that's why most people have the experience. They start a practice, and they do this, and they do that, and they do this, and they do that, and they do a little more of this, and some of that, and the door is still closed. And then you get impatient, pissed off, quit, come back, try it, and then one day the door opens. It just opens. You haven't quite earned it. That's why people make a lot of stuff about merit, You can do that if you like, but then you start quantifying it. It's like a salary. You have to pay this, get that. But I think merit gets really in the way. And you have a lot of people who do a lot of merit, And it's something good about it, really is good about it. But actually, I wouldn't count on it too much. At least I don't. Do you know what I mean? You think you merit all this? I don't like to think that way. You can think any way. We can think any way we want, right? That's what's so good. It's all opinion. It's all opinion, right? But so one day the door opens because it's a givenness. Primordial awareness. Everything is a givenness. Everything we experience is given. It's arising, it's manifesting, good, bad, and different. And it's manifesting in us. We like to think we have a lot of freedom, but, you know, yeah. It arises, it manifests, and comes through. Hope everybody feels their doors opening. You know, more or less. You feel your doors opening? I feel the doors opening for a lot of people. Door opens. So this purity of awareness as it arises, then from the purity of awareness, another experience began to arise, what they would call the Vajra, indestructibleness, or another way of saying it, unborn, undying, or still another way of saying it, timeless awareness arises. I'm in time and I'm in timeless awareness simultaneously as a plain, ordinary person. And the more we mythologize this stuff, and the more we make it exceptional or special, the more fucked up the system will become. You with me? And then you start entering into asymmetrical relationships with your own self and your own aspirations. You follow what I mean by that? Or even worse, you start falling into asymmetrical relationships with other people. You with me? Who have purity of awareness in their body. So one of the things about the purity of awareness, we're feeling it a little bit right now, it opens up, and it can have this unborn, undying quality, which means annihilation anxiety starts to dissolve a little bit, you know. And if it's a belief, if you make it a belief because you heard it, it doesn't count. Because belief doesn't count. It really, really doesn't. At least for me it doesn't, because right following belief is doubt. And they go together. But if I have an experience of this, or I'm sitting next to a person who has an experience and it comes through them, then I have a little bit more certitude, the certainties. Huh? So as we experience this purity of awareness in our heart, that doesn't mean we have good minds, pure minds, or pure habits, or pure anything. This is an unconditional experience, the purity of awareness. Now, if you're in mind alone, it doesn't quite work. So the little trick or the gift is to find ourselves in awareness itself. What's also nice about the purity of awareness, we can feel it in each other. Pretty much whatever you can feel in yourself, you can feel in other people, either for good or for not good, you know? If I'm really pissed off, Tom looks angry to me right now. If I'm in purity of heart, I feel that in him, right? So we have this direct relationship with each other, more or less, when we're in awareness. Because the same awareness is manifesting me that's manifesting you right now. Huh? The same awareness manifesting. Same radiance, same light. So we feel the purity in ourselves, we can also feel the purity in others. And sometimes if a person can feel that purity in us, their very experiencing that purity in us awakens it in us. It arises because of mirroring or recognition, or one of those words, cohesion words, right? Mirroring. So if someone experiences that in us, then it arises. And if we both experience it in each other together, it arises even more. That's why I always love what Earth Poster once said, 2 awarenesses are better than one. And I really think that's really, really true. And when we make spirituality just a solipsistic moment, a transcendental moment, a lot can happen, but not much to anybody else. It becomes very solipsistic. But if we feel this awareness of awareness, and we feel this purity in our bodies, and we're embodying it, and we experience it in other bodies, we can experience it in baby bodies, huh? Little babies, you feel it, huh? And then slowly but surely we embody this purity of awareness. Even though we can be nuts, insane, have a lot of terrible habits, and yet, then what also really is interesting, this purity of awareness can be very intense and can hold intensity. So, in many ways, whatever's nasty we try and get rid of, huh? Or bad, whatever that might mean for you, maybe that you don't brush your teeth or something, whatever it is that's you try and dispel it from your body, you try and exercise it, you try and dissociate from it, you dissociate from it. And actually it works up to a point. The dilemma with dissociation, and I'm bouncing off a little thing we took at the monastery this week, it's what's on my mind as I sat here. When you use dissociation, it actually works. That's why we keep doing it. It really works. It's not that, oh, it doesn't work. It actually works very well, except we start to fragment even more. Are you with me? And as we fragment even more, we start even dissociating more. And then before you know it, we don't dissociate. It is dissociating us. And we go into more and more fragmentation. Did you ever have that experience? You ever had that? You know that? And it just keeps moving. What did Tom say? What?
The first 30 years of his life.
A little degree. And it just keeps happening, you know? And the more it happens, the more empty the body becomes. You with me? And the emptiness is not the emptiness, the plenum, the fullness. It is really a nihilistic frame, huh? And then we start having all sorts of ways of trying to self-regulate to the dissociative stuff we're doing, and it really gets pretty hard. So, to suspend our mind a little bit and to experience that purity of awareness in an unconditional way, because I really think I've earned it, I'll have doubt, especially on a bad day. If I understand there's no merit to this stuff whatsoever, and this is what all the great masters say, both in Shaivism and so there's no merit, forget about merit. Most of the lamas are afraid to say that because it's so against, but Dzogchen erases everything before. You with me? Lama Torchen would talk about it though, in certain moments. Merit, well, it's good to have it, but again, don't count on it. Right? You follow what I'm saying? So giving up merit meritorious. Doesn't mean you give up virtue or courage or but giving up the merit thing. You with me? Our super egos love merit. You with me? It loves merit, and it loves dismerit. You with me? And it's always scoring yes, no, yes, no. So when we start focusing on the purity of awareness, just that alone, unconditional, a given, it weakens the activity of the superego. It weakens the judgmentalness. So even to suspend our mind a little bit, we're suspending judgmentalness, and then we're in this awareness, and we're focusing on the purity. Now the door may not open the first time. Just wait, okay. Come on, let's go. And eventually it opens. And there's a shift when it opens inside our body. And even when that is described as untouched, unborn, undying, it means it's there. It is the very nature of awareness. And then if we can feel it resonating with other people, it's really great. The Dzogchen tradition is very preoccupied with the purity of awareness, its ungivenness, its very nature of awareness. They're very preoccupied with the differentiation of our mind from awareness, and how really important it is to know that difference when you're in your mind and when you're in awareness. And how in time, once you've established yourself in awareness more or less, how completely important it is to integrate our mind into awareness. Not only that, but it's also really useful to integrate all the stuff we'd like to dissociate to bring it into the purity of our heart. But then we have a contamination phobia. Don't you have a little contamination? If you actually bring this into your heart, it's going to contaminate it. It's so powerful, so rapacious, so dark. It'll devour it, right? It's like the ex thanatos, eros. And yet, purity of heart dissolves everything. Literally dissolves, metabolizes everything into itself. Now, if you have a little bit of OCD, it's really can be challenging, right? Who has a little bit of OCD here? Anybody not have any bit of OCD? It's a quasi-intellectual group, right? Well, I have a little OCD. So you bring the obsessive thought into your body. You bring it in. Bring it right into your heart. And it's really great if we can feel this purity each other. I think when people really fall in love with each other, that's what they feel. It opens up that dimension. And because it does open out of resonance and out of perception, it opens. Then religion gets preoccupied with purity. It always gets, whether it's washing hands, eating. That little text I gave, I told you to sent out, Amy sent out, it's really useful to read. It covers everything in your life. You with me? And accept the purity of awareness. That's really amazing. Accept the purity of your own awareness. Isn't that bizarre? So in religion, when people actually start feeling purity in a person, or they have a teacher, they think the teacher has to be pure, right? Pretty important, purity. They think a teacher has to be pure. You with me? Pure teacher. Why would you want a non-pure teacher, right? So, and also there's a way that we start concretizing this purity of heart in certain ways. We start making it a thing. Because one of the great things about our mind, it can make everything a thing. I can make you a thing, I can make me a thing, I can make being itself a thing. So the so what is purely awareness, is givenness, becomes a thing. Becomes a thing. And the teacher becomes a thing. And so the admonition is to see the teacher as pure. To see the teacher as pure. You with me? In an unconditional way. You sign up for it. You have to see the teacher as pure. And an issue with a little bit of transference, it really works. It really works. You see the teacher as pure. And the teacher can have the purity of awareness. You with me? And the teacher may even be able to transmit the purity of awareness. Because that's what a really good teacher can do. In these traditions, they transmit. I remember when Lama Norla was here. I may have told you this story the last time. I'll tell you it again today, for those who weren't here. So when Lama Norla was here the last time, about 2 years ago, he said, please mingle your mind with me. Okay? I like mingling my mind. I think it's really one of the fun things to do. Okay? And so I mingle my mind with him. Immediately, my mind disappears, right? No mind. And then, pure awareness opens, embodied in Semwa. So, yeah. And then the program by See You, Hasta La Vida, still there. Now that is a transmission of the purity of heart, to use this thing. That's it. That is an essential transmission. In fact, that is the transmission of Dzogchen, over and over again. And that's a transmission that happens in our own lives, right? When people transmit this to each other, right? You don't need an outfit. You with me? This is true. But if I start thinking that this purity of heart depends on your total purity as a person, watch what you're thinking, feeling, doing, action, sexually, and every other way. And I'm not saying that there's not expectations of people. That's different than the purity of heart. You with me? You can have purity of heart, and if you don't pay me, I'm going to throw you out. You follow what I mean by that? It won't matter. But it really matters for other things. You with me? So I'm not saying you don't have expectations of people. You with me? Lamas, leaders, teachers. You guys, raise your hands if you follow what I'm saying. But that doesn't negate the power of the transmission and the purity of heart. And if we can just stick with that requirement and what's around that requirement, good manners and a few things like that, then when the teacher falls off the horse, which they tend to do, then you do not fall off the horse either. You don't have a great trauma You know, you don't fall into endless despair. You with me? It's like when you first realize your parents weren't exactly totally perfecto mundo. You with me? You know? Which is really brings us all into self-maturity, you know? It brings us into maturity. Raise your hands if you understand that.
Could you put the microphone closer?
Yes, thank you, sure, great. I feel lazy today. Huh?
It seems to me the destructive thing in that whole process is that we're not seeing it in ourselves.
Yep. No, we take purity, which is there, and when you feel that in the transmission, and if you think it's only there, then you get into problems. So we'll sit with that for a moment. And then we know that religion usurps these things. Pretty much what's ever natural, religion makes it its own. You with me? I'll be talking about invoking archetypes today. But that's religion makes that its own. You with me? Or purity of heart, the pure teacher, you know. And then if the teacher's not pure, then Tilly Norbo's son writes an article of, well, then it's your fault, okay? Because you didn't really realize that he was not pure to start off with, or wasn't properly trained yet, you know. This is a typical patriarchal frame, you know. But got to make a living. You have to make a living, right? So, wandering around this morning a little bit, okay? So, purity of heart. Let's close our eyes for a moment. We can bring our mind into this. And we bring our mind in, We literally bring our mind into the inner heart. That's the Gadaba Tantras. Bring your mind into that place. Then that infuses our mind more. It frees it. So let's focus. And we'll extend. We're cultivating it. We'll go deeper. And the more that we can be both in time and timeless awareness simultaneously, right? Then the more this is possible. To transmit to our friends. Let's extend it to each other. Or pass it to each other. Whatever word you want. Give it. Move it. Release it. Send it. Extend it. Now you're not really willing it. Because it's almost like willing it but not willing it. You're bringing your awareness down to where it manifests. It's almost like you're opening the door of a manifestation. Unbuttoning a button, and then it flows. And Yangtang Rinpoche, who I like so much, would say that this really is the great compassion. And this is in everybody's bucket. This capacity to extend this awareness itself to each other. That's democracy. And And all the traditions, I've never met one tradition yet that doesn't like to own this itself. Whether it's a shaman, South America, or a great Qigong master, and these are all great people. These are all great people, but there's a cultural frame. Priesthood, Brahmahood, Lamahood, shamanhood. Don't be offended. They like in owning this capacity as if it culturally belongs to them. And like invoking archetypes, bringing forth the archetypal realm into your life. Huh? Dzogchen does this least of anybody from my prejudiced point of view, because it was the least religious. It actually considered itself the natural path. It was all natural, nature lovers. Nature Boy, the song Nature Boy. So, one thing is the transmission of the purity of our own awareness. Now, Amma does this really coolly. You go up, she embraces you, she kisses you, and then she's transmitting this into your body. Huh? Totally cool. And that's about what she does. She also brings in tons of money. She's probably the most wealthy of them all. And because she has this Shakti, it just brings it in. I go there, all my money goes as I walk into the place. My charge card shrinks, you know. But she does fantastic things with it, you know. So it's really great seeing her, the feminine dimension personified. So the same thing with invoking, invoking the invocation of the archetype. You with me? We play with that on Saturdays here. And the invoking of the archetypical dimension has to do with empowerments and all those things. Now, I love getting empowerments. I love it because I'm a sort of a greedy person. You with me? And usually I get them twice, okay? I get them one time just to get them, and the next time I get them to get them more. Graspy. But I like that sort of thing. Now, I don't know if I really believe in empowerments either. I should say that to you. In my best moments, I don't. I really don't. But I don't say that to people because it's really bad taste, okay? You know? But I like getting empowerments. I love when lamas come here and give the empowerments, and it's really great. I think the empowerments we've had have been here fantastic. But then they leave. And then you think it's in you, but asleep, sort of. You with me? Or some kind of way you have to. What happened to the empowerment? Because that empowerment is simply the drama of invoking that which is in us already. And when Patricia sings, that is the power of invocation. The field changes in this room. She has a beautiful voice, but within the voice is that power of invocation. And she makes it her own. And Dzogchen takes very seriously the Sambhogakaya realm, the archetypical realm. And finally getting to my little talk. They take it very seriously because this is a multi-dimensional world. And the first dimension is ordinary life. And the degree that you and I experience the light and energy in ourselves, we can experience it in each other. And we can transmit it to each other. And we can feel that radiance and the energy. And we can feel it in ourselves and in people. And we can actually create a field in our home or with ourselves. What you guys did a few days ago at Gisla's house, we create fields. We have the power of field. The humanness is a field, huh? Human field. So amazing. And we have that power of invoking that. But it also goes deeper. So at one level, we can do it like this right now. Let's extend to each other the purity. And then it opens up even more, because we are the manifestation of the archetypal realm, to use that language. We are the manifestation. So our support here is arriving out of the Sambhogakaya realm, the archetypical realm. And it's manifesting these circumstances as us, right? The archetypal realm. And then, what's manifesting the archetypal realm is the Dharmakaya realm, pure creativity, pure openness, pure power, pure. Now that Sambhogakaya realm is really interesting, because we sort of know what it is, but we don't. So, so say if I'm a Dzogchen practitioner, so I'm going to start using deities, right? And that archetypical realm's going to be personified by deities for me. And there's Parasambhava, primordial guru, huh? Or there is Yeshitogo, nurturance, huh? Or all these different energies. It's energy. Sambhogakaya realm is energy. Alan Wallace was really a very brilliant person. He's really perhaps one of the smartest of the translators, and I think he knows everything pretty much, you know. I don't know if I like him though, but he has this little tight, but he know, and he says, well, the Sambhogakaya realm, he says, I think maybe it could be a mathematical formula nowadays, you know, in terms of the underlying, a string theory. And so rather than having pictures of Mary, would have string theory pictures up here. You with me? Just as valid. You understand that? String theory, right? Some kind of ways, or say, I like the planets. Say I like astrology. You with me? And I know about the planets, and I like knowing the cosmological world. So that's who the archetypes are. Mars is an archetype. Jupiter's an archetype. You with me? So that. So there's a lot of different languaging of the archetypes. So one is the deities, nature. Say I'm from a nature culture. So there's Mount so-and-so. So there's a code. So we have this experience of the archetypal realm, and we code it. Some sort of way we code it. You with me? And sometimes things just appear. You with me? And I have no idea, but where is this elephant from? When Sharon's mom was dying, I'm trying to add more personal things, okay? Becoming personal. When Sharon's mom is dying, Sharon's there, the mom's dying, and the mother says, Sharon, there's this elephant in front of me right now. What? Where's this elephant coming from, you know? And Ganesh was appearing in front of her. And Mary Frisella knew nothing about Ganesh, but there's this Ganesh arising, and there's her daughter who's in this archetypical realm with her, and it's coming through that code, you know? Fantastico, right? And then she dies, and there's a new beginning, you know? You guys follow what I mean by the archetypal realm? And so there's no one language. You with me? And Jung discovered this. Jung was very much preoccupied with the unconscious, as most analysts are. You with me? The personal unconscious. Things forgotten. Experiences experienced but never known. Certain experiences we had happen to us, but we never could process them. So the first time we process them is sometimes we start touching the trauma in our life, and that's the first time we actually experience it, right? And that type of foreclosure is really, really good. That's a sign of health. When you have those type of foreclosures, then that means your system was protecting you because you weren't quite ready to deal with that at 2, 3 years old. You with me? And so as you become ready and you have more awareness coming into you and there's more embodiment, then these wonderful devices start illuminating some of this experience that you can then embody it, and take it. Say yes if you understand what I'm saying. So there are many different causes, and so Jung started having experiences that were out of his own realm. And then he would visit his Philemon would come visit him and talk to him at night, and tell him secrets about the primordial guru in that form. And so he would then started to study the alchemical traditions, but most of all the Gnostic traditions. He started studying the Gnostic traditions, okay? He started becoming a Gnostic scholar of direct perception, and he started opening those texts. In fact, when the Gnostic Gospels were found, there was one section that was named in his honor because I think they gave him some money. If you want something to name to your honor, you give a little money, and suddenly you have it in your honor. So he started beginning to realize the cosmological dimension is the manifestation of our personal unconscious, and that psyche really is the anima. And psyche, it's all alive. The entire universe is alive. And a lot of our psychology is ultimately cosmological in source, right? And this is most of the ancient traditions touch on this in one way or another. So like Dzogchen touches on this because when they start the power of invoking the archetypes, the energies, is a power of bringing forth that which is in us already, you with me, at the level of eminence. So there's two ways of approaching archetypes. One is transcendental and the other is eminence. From the very beginning, which I love about the Dzogchen tradition and the Bon tradition, they understood it as eminence. You with me? It is within my body, it is manifesting me, and it's manifesting my voice, it's manifesting my mind, it's manifesting these circumstances right now, primordial awareness, but not primordial awareness just as the big space, you with me, the quantum point, but it's manifesting as energies and vortexes and all this stuff, and we'll call them gods and goddesses or planets or whatever, you with me? And then it manifests us. But it's all from within us. But not from my mind. It is not my mind creating all this. That's something else. Initially, that's what Jung thought. He thought it was the collective unconscious gave this. You guys interested in this? Is this? Okay. He thought it was the collective unconscious. He was still a psychologist. And he was always tormented about giving up being simply a psychologist and understanding that psyche was beyond that. And then he began actually being an astrologer, and my son has told me most of this, and using astrology as one metaphor for the unconscious, but also the Gnostic metaphors also, and the whole Gnosticism that he took, and the hermeneutic traditions and the hermetic traditions that he took. And then in the Eastern traditions, they've always had this more or less. Not the early Buddhist traditions, but as you go further and further, especially in the Tibetan traditions, they start having the archetypical dimension, the Sambhogakaya dimension becomes very important, right? There was a difference, though. In the later traditions, mostly, later traditions of in the new translation traditions, and this is not to be a scholar, it's just to know what's happening to when you go to a place, what's going down here, what's happening here, like at a drive-in, okay? So they thought it was all transcendental, because the early Buddhist stuff was transcendental. It means it's not here, it's not there, it's out there. You with me? Divinity's out there. In fact, most of this stuff stinks, okay? So that's impure. So you want to free yourself from the body, you want to free yourself from all desires, you want to free yourself from all attachment, you with me? And you want to be just in this elegantly dissociative state, okay? And it's religion by negation and dissociation. No offense, because it actually works. It truly works. You with me? One of the things I like about Lama Norla, when I wanted to study the new I wanted to learn about Mahamudra. That's why he actually came here. And by that time I had studied a lot of Dzogchen and other stuff. But he was a Mahamudra teacher who I actually liked because I felt a lot of love around him. And I felt he was a very decent human being. And as he said one time, giving a talk out on liberation, he says, you know, it's all personal. So he gave a talk and he erased what he said at that moment. I took that as useful. You follow what I mean by that? It's opinion, okay? Now, but there's a certain way the archetypes are looked at as out there, transcendental experience. So how to deal with the transcendent? You pray to it. You pray to it. You pray to it. As Lama Dujin Rinpoche says in his own quiet way, you create contrived prayers. Okay, so there's all these little things that go on. You create contrived prayers. Help me, man, more please. And then also you make sacrifices, you burn candles, you burn lights. It's totally valid in that frame. Say yes if you're understanding it. I'm doing it with a little bit of humor to have fun. Okay? So you have, and there's energy in these rituals, okay? But it's out there. And secondly, you identify with it in your mind. So I start thinking myself as Padmasambhava. I have 3 outfits on. One's one level, another level. I start looking like him a little bit. I have Mandavara with me, my own radiance. So you start identifying in your mind the deities. Raise your hands if you know that. Now that's a mental occupation. You with me? And really and truly, it's a belief system. And if you believe it enough, you can start believing that that you're that. You with me? And you may even start having that energy come into you because you're so actually attuned to it. But if it's only my mind, I might have a little mustache. I said you have a little mustache like him and things like that. But actually, if your own attunement is to that, then it could actually you start embodying it. Because it's not transcendental, it's not holy otherness, it's manifesting you right now. And even if you have that attunement, say, to the guru, or to self-revelation, or to strong Mars energy, or whatever metaphor you want, it is eminence. It is, so in spirituality, there's 2 big differences. Transcendental, raise your hands if that's making sense. There's a transcendental, holy otherness. Now, if I think these archetypes are transcendental, and some of you have and some of you do, when I go towards that archetype, I'm going to dissociate. I bet you $5. I'm really. If you have, or if you learn them as a child, many of you did, you think the archetype's out there. And so as you start going towards the archetype, you may be dissociating from the here and now to become into that transcendental dimension. You don't have to believe any of this, but you can think about it when you have nothing to do. Or do you feel more dissociated, less here, and more out there when you do some of these practices? You with me? Or you feel a certain form of purity that's uncluttered by embodiment, and you're out there away from all the dirt, okay? You follow what I'm saying? Or, in more contemporary ways, in the emergence of contemporary thinking, or some of these ancient incarnational embodiments. For instance, in Christianity, there was a form of the Gnostics that were incarnational. Everyone is the embodiment of the light, period. You with me? Jesus is the guy who comes, he embodies the light, and he teaches people about the light, and he says, I and the Father are one, or I and God are one, and God is light, and that's the way it is, okay? And he's like and he can transmit the light, but he's just one of us. But then you start having, in the battles that emerge with religion, you start having Ignatius and Athanasius, where these bishops start to try and create a church. they start trying to create a religion. The early Gnostic, the early Christians were not a religion. It was very it was floppy. You with me? It was very unorganized, and everybody could get up, say what they wanted to say, walk around, touch each other, transmit the light. Women were just as equal in the early church. But then it starts becoming a religion. It also started becoming a religion because it started becoming a religion because you need some sort of societal thing to help things survive and pass understanding. So let's make a book of the real writings. And so this big battle, what goes on to the book. Whoever wins, it becomes the book. You with me? All the other stuff is garbage. And then they started to create a religion. And how do we start? Well, we start a theocratic frame. Theocratic frame means somebody's God here, okay? There's got to be somebody, and we'll make Jesus as God, okay? He's God the Son, there's God the Father, and there's God the Holy Ghost. That's the spirit that we all feel. And then that comes to the church, to the bishops, to the Pope, who, by the way, is infallible. This infallibility, we like to think in infallibility because that's also what people think about Tibetan lamas. They're infallible. Not only that, but they know what we're thinking all the time, you know? So that infallibility thing is pretty tricky. You with me? And so you think the person's infallible. And so whatever they say is it. You follow me? So the infallibility thing, and then it started really getting, once it started getting really strong, then you start having real battles about heretics. Now, Franz did a wonderful paper on heretics. You with me? Heretics and what happens to heretics. What happens to heretics, Fran? They're tortured and killed. Pretty much wherever you're at, you know, whatever the heresy is, you're tortured and killed. It's one of our favorite things. Now, you may not like owning this, but we love killing and torturing people. You know, Trump wants to kill the entire the entire Korean universe, you know, because they're all going to go, you know. So we just love it. It's built into us, Thanatos, you know. So the Christian church starts killing the Gnostics. You with me? Yes?
Because that's what happened to Christ.
Yeah, well, he got it too. You with
He
me?
came in and he says, good, you know, somehow he decided
No, he got killed.
that he was going to be crucified, tortured, and killed.
It's part of the narrative, okay?
The poor guys who had to do it.
Yeah. So you start having a theocratic frame, okay? Now this goes back to archetypes, okay? Because it's quite different when you experience the archetype, then the door opens really easy. It's not a door up on the wall. Sometimes people have dreams of doors up on the walls. It's not a door. It's right here in me. So I'm standing at the door, and it's my own heart. So it starts to open too from the inside. It opens up, and then the archetypes start manifesting. And some of you guys see the archetypes. You actually see the deities. You see the dakinis, right? And that dakinis are manifest. They're in you, but they're also around you, huh? It doesn't mean that they're not out there. It's not a phantasmagoria. It's not a projection. You with me? The archetypes are both dualistic and non-dualistic. When the archetype is a dimension of our being. You with me? So to know that dimension, for instance, if I know you in my mind right now, I'm knowing you somewhat mentalistically. I see Barbara. Barbara's walking. There's Barbara. I've known Barbara a long time. Barbara's now going to the bathroom, I think. Good guess, right? I've made an interpretation. She confirms it, okay? And that's all mental. You with me? And I feel, okay, great. Now, then I go into awareness, and if I'm in awareness, I can feel within myself and perhaps within time this field within us and between us, and I feel this experience of indivisibility. He's him and I'm me. We like each other in certain ways. We don't like each other in other ways, but we're held by this exquisite indivisibility. You with me? And it's creative, and it unfolds, and it manifests. But There's another dimension, if we go into it, that opens up. But this is the dilemma. If what I know about archetypes is only in my mind as I say this, you're not going to know about archetypes. You're going to get some information, but you're not going to get the experience of the archetype. Because to know about an archetype, you and I have to be in the archetypical dimension. We have to be in that dimension. You with me? Then we're going to know it directly and experientially. That doesn't mean I have to know the word archetypes. You with me? If you're an artist, it happens automatically. Yes, you wanted to say something.
I remember one Friday morning, I was experiencing visions of pooties flying around.
Of who?
Pooties, little angels. Of
Yes, like little dakinis, yeah.
babies.
Yes, babies. Sometimes they're teeny, 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 weeny ones.
So, and I've seen it in a painting, and I saw it up here. So they appeared kind of holographic.
Holographically?
So does that mean even though it appears holographically on the outside, it still is manifested from the inside? It's eminent
No.
at the same time?
Eminence is beyond you. All this is manifesting in eminence right now. So say you see a dakini on the outside. There she is, or something like you see something. Well, it's manifesting non-dualistically within you and outside you. It is manifesting simultaneously. So sometimes you may just see a dakini inside. Sometimes, if you have good fortune, you see the dakini outside. So in that way, it's both non-dual and dual. But it's by me seeing it outside doesn't mean I'm just projecting it in my mind. It is not simply a mental projection. Get over that. Get over it. It is you're actually seeing the manifestation in the field itself is appearing to you in the field. Because you're in the field. You're surrounded by the field. We're always in the field, but we're not always experiencing the field. But the more that you and I are always experiencing the field, then we're going to start seeing the manifestations of the archetypes manifesting. But it's not simply manifesting in here, and I'm thinking it's out there. Sometimes it's manifesting in here, but that it's manifesting out there means I am now in the Sambhoga Kaya dimension. Say yes if you got it. Yes.
Would you say it's an entity?
No, I would say it is a form. I'll be this way. Ready? Tom, are you an entity alone? No. You are not an entity. You're no thingness, and you also have some thingness. The deities are a lot of no thingness, but there's a manifestation of the light with a certain form that's manifested, but I would not consider it a thing. This is what's tricky for the human mind. We want to make everything a thing, and so we make awareness a thing, we make no thingness a thing, and we make some of these manifestations things. Now, at times, there's different dimensions of the dakinis that you may see, okay? And sometimes it's like those that are not things, but you see these, they're apparitions. It's not an appearance. This is an appearance. Apparition means it's visions, but it's not hallucinations. There's a difference. Or sounds. You're hearing the sounds, and it's primordial awareness manifesting apparitionally to you, and it's a strange dimension, okay? But sometimes, if you really have a good moment, you may see a dakini in front of you in the flesh. Are you with me? And some of you have seen that. Just like I'm looking at Aaron right now, suddenly there's a dakini in the flesh, right in front. You with me? And doesn't have that translucent feel. the Sambhogakaya realm is a realm of translucidity. And there's another word, hearing, for lucidness, but that's also a hearing sound. It's the realm of, so everything is translucent. But there are certain manifestations, just like you have real people who are dakinis. You with me? You have something in between that that's not simply of that realm, that is an experience of a dakini, maybe from a past life. Yes.
I consider myself very kinesthetic.
You're,
Carol and I compare. Carol's very visual, being an
yes.
artist. And
She sees.
tell her a story and she'll see you in your living room with your parents.
Yes, she sees the whole thing.
I don't do that at all. You tell me about a story, I get a sensation of it. And then when you come back and you tell me the story,
Yes.
it comes back up. But I never, and even with I will, I don't, if I would talk about my archetypes, they never even take enough form. They're more like
Perfect.
experiences.
They're experiences.
I like to use the word taste.
Yeah. They are experiences of the Sambhogakaya level at the Sambhogakaya level.
Yeah, they never
Perfect.
take form.
Yep.
In your body and through movement. You can
It can be yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
It almost extends a little bit from the body.
Yeah.
This also makes me think of some of the great creators who say, I heard the music. That must be,
Yeah.
Mozart,
yeah.
always coming through him.
Right, yeah.
And not just Moses, but I know one person is a musician. He hears music all the time. In fact, the person came for a consultation because he didn't know how not to hear the music and how not to be hearing it all the time. But Tom's example, it may look like sometimes mnemonikaya. Sometimes it's at the level of ordinary experience. But at times, it is Sambhogakaya dimension. The point I'm trying to make is when I'm in my mind, when Barbara went, I was in a mental state, I then shift to a kinesthetic mnemonikaya state, and then a Sambhogakaya state. To have those experiences, we are in that dimension. And when we have Dharmakaya, pure potentiality, we're also in that dimension, okay? That you want to know, because knowing that allows the process of embodiment to continue and to be embodied. If I think it's out there and I'm stretching into, when Gregorius, he gave that talk, the Greek guy, he wrote the book, what do they call it? His book was on? The realms, the other realm, Buddha fields. And he, Pure Lands, yes, thank you so much. He understands, when he wrote this fantastic book, that the Pure Lands are here and now, and they're embodiments. And that's why he talks so fantastic. When he talks, you experience what he's saying, okay? And so, for a Pure Land person, when I read that, I thought, this is really, because it wasn't a transcendental moments, okay? So why is this, why are we spending time talking about this and having a good time, hopefully? Because it helps the process of embodiment take place. If I know that I'm having this experience because our own openness to the embodiment, to the incarnational process is really part of this drama. Yes, please.
One of the things that in the recent practice that we've been doing, where we've been working with the energy.
Yeah, in the sexual energy, yes.
I recognized the other day that when I meditate, it's been kind of this, and it's sort of visual, but it feels like it's out in front of me and then is in me and around me. But when we've been doing this practice of having it inside, all of a sudden it's like being in that experience, like in the middle of my body, in the energy of it, in the inside of it, as opposed to it's no longer here.
Yes.
Although it's felt energetically here too, but it's so much more embodied.
Yes, it is so much more embodied. And as the tantric theme arises, okay, the embodiment of everything and anything is the empowerment, the self-empowerment, and especially the embodiment of the sexual energy, because the sexual energy is is the life force itself, you with me, and we're taking this life force, and we're, rather than often say, on one hand, dissociative of sexuality can be out here, you with me, and it's outside of us, and it's not inside of us, and can be difficulties around that. But the same thing when the sexual energy is a powerful organizing force outside of us, we will feel it's as if it's a drive outside of us. We will feel as if the devil's making me do it. You with me? It's a thing inside me. You with me? But it's not me. You with me? And the not meanness means, in a real way, it's not in the central channel yet. So all this has to do with taking the sexual energy and bringing it in through both the sexual center, but ultimately into the central channel. And as it's brought into the central channel, then we start feeling this profound embodiment that actually opens up the heart essence in a more embodied way. And I know a lot of people are experiencing that now. Yes.
I find that it's a dilemma. It's contradictory, because I can feel sometimes this bikini outside of
Yes.
but then this light comes in, and there's this feeling of warmth and comfort.
Yes.
And then that becomes me.
Yep.
I feel the warmth and comfort, but I don't always have it. And then it's just a sense of peace.
And which is great.
Yeah.
You experience the purity of heart. That peace.
Yeah.
It's very, very great.
But is it important to take it from out there and bring it into me?
No, it really depends what you want to do. You with me? But this is why experimenting and playing, the play of awareness, is really fun. So sometimes, I've known people who have experienced Mary, and like the Catholic people who come, and there's Mary appearing.
Yeah.
And I know some who are extremely talented. They really have direct perception, and they see Mary coming, and often this has different people about it, and and Mary wants to become them. She wants to be you. There's a step where the Dakini wants to be you, and then that's why you say, "I am the Dakini." You want to incarnate the Dakini. You don't have to, but then people get terrified because they feel they're going to lose their own identity. So the archetype, you want to become the archetype. So even all these ancient traditions, you want to become the Dakini. You want to become Guru Rinpoche. But you're not going about it by just identifying in your mind. It is an embodying process. So if you're a good person who has the good fortune and you see the Dakini, you may take her and you may invite her in. Please come here. You see this in all the text. It says, please come here. By here, they mean here. And then you take that in, you allow it to come in. It will come in on its own. You can't grab it, rustle it in, and take it in. It will come in on its own, and you will feel, I think, an empowerment that you haven't quite felt yet. You with me? And it will give you a groundedness, because when the Dakini energy comes in, it will come through your entire body, including all your chakras. And then you will feel a grounded empowerment with this, and then it's your own. It's not outside you whatsoever. Yes?
So I'm thinking about the practice of the wrathful deities,
Mm-hmm.
like Archetypal. So
Could you speak louder, please?
I'm thinking of the
They die pretty quick here.
yeah. So I try. Just speak louder. Yeah. So I'm thinking of the practice of the wrathful deities, like Bhadrakalaya. So could the challenge there be that in some ways it's like really truly embodying the cutting through energy, and being kind of fearful that if I really do that, I might lose being the nice person I am. Because I lost it.
Well, I like to say to you, that would be really great.
yeah, but I'm thinking about the phobia there.
There's always a phobia about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the embodiment of the archetypal dimension is simply the embodiment of your own dimension.
Yeah.
If you think it's too other, it's not psychological, it's cosmological. And that's why I urge everybody to read Durjam Linkwa's autobiography called
The Clear Mirror.
The Clear Mirror. Been urging everybody to read that for 2 years. Please read The Clear Mirror. Are you with me? And when you practice Vajrakalaya, who I've really studied this with Lama Torchen completely, because he's a master of the Vajrakalaya and a master of one of the pure Vajrakalaya lineages. First, to embody that, you have to be in Kadig. You have to be in purity of heart. And you have to be in timeless awareness a bit. You have to feel that dimension. You have to be in that. That doesn't mean you don't practice it, but it will have fruition. And then you feel the purity of heart. You can feel that in the person who you're going to throw the fireball at, that energy into, or the situation, because without it, it's not going to work. Paradoxically, you have to be in the purest state possible. You have to be in the state of compassion, because when you start to do the Vajrakalaya and you line up with that energy and you line up with it as your own body and you begin to direct it, it will have power and it will reconfigurate the circumstances. You with me? Now, how that takes place has a lot of different variations. You with me? But you want to be in the purity of awareness in Kadig, and that will help you hold it in a very pure state. Because the purer the state, the more powerful the energy. The more pure the state. And Dr. Yen, the great Qigong master, would also say the same thing. And he would talk about the purity of awareness as a Qigong person. You want to be in that pure state, because the more pure the state, the more the power can come through you. And if you're in mind alone, you're having a mental experience. You with me? Thank you for that question, okay? So the embodiment is because it is manifesting in us. And then you're going to feel certain archetypes that you love, and those are the ones you start to embody and practice. So the power is the embodiment. So all these archetypes are within you up to a point. And then I'm going to end my archetype talk with this. Opened it right up. Okay, good. Lucky. First of all, there's one called I, A Roaring Line, which you all should read. This is from this fantastic book, Wisdom Nectar, Dorje Rinpoche's Heart Essence Advice. And maybe Skip may copy some of these, if he wants to, okay. And this is called The Magical Play of the Original State, a song and dance of sublime aspirations. So he's experiencing his aspirations, and he writes this. Ah, how amazing, how fantastic. Oh, yeah. In the sacred place, the blissful Pure Land, Dzogchen, abides the Dharmakaya Master, the Buddha, Amitabha, limitless light. Think of me, your child, who prays to you with compassion, and grant me your blessing and supreme empowerment, huh? He's entering into a relationship being open for this gift. My awareness, empty clarity, spacious luminosity, beyond center or boundary. Lord, isn't this your wisdom mind? And here they use mind meaning awareness, SIMS rather than SIMD. My abiding nature, ever without transition or changed, my abiding nature, There it is. Buddha-mita-tabla, unchanging light. Isn't this you? I have never been apart from this, even for an instant. Never apart, yet I was completely unaware. Now that I experience it, recognize it, Buddha-mita-tabla, limitless light vanishes. Archetype disappears. The blissful pure lands, they all go. They just go. Unobstructed within the unborn space of the nature of awareness, I exalt within this awareness, this play of spacious exaltation and awareness. When all experience arises as a pervasive manifestation of the Dharmakaya. So I'm now seeing all this Sambhoga stuff, blah, is simply the manifestation of pure awareness itself. Just manifesting, appearing, disappearing. So, clinging to Pure Lands is disappearing, is misleading. And the label Buddha, the narrow path of attachment. There is no Buddha Amitabha outside of me. I look within. Now, he's not talking to me about my mind, but about awareness, the field of awareness itself. I discovered the Dharmakaya within myself. How amazing, how exhilarating, unbelievable. This is never-ending happiness. And this is the kindness of my Holy Lama, and the blessings of the Lama's profound instructions. I sing this joyous, exalted song and dance upon reaching the summit of my aspirations. Then in this great poem, he goes and he dissolves everything. All these realms, all these deities, all these energies, he dissolves the whole thing. And that's it. I'll read another one, okay? So everything we say about the archetypes, there's always a doubleness to all these conversations. On one hand, it's manifesting, and the other hand, it's dissolving, appearing. Just like we do. Appear, disappear, appearing, disappear. In all the Dakini texts, she appears, she manifests, the energy comes and manifests in you, and then she disappears, and then she appears again. This appearance, disappearance phenomena, huh? Now, let me find another one. Find one of the Dakinis here. Ohiroka. In the sacred place, the pure celestial land, abides the chief of all the Dakinis, Vajravahari. Think of me, your child, who prays to you with compassion, and grant me the blessings, and remove all the obstacles between myself and experiencing you. My basic original nature, this vast, uncontrived expanse. Companion, huh? Great phrase, companion. Isn't this your stainless space? The wisdom of empty exaltation without coming together or parting. This is why someone last week mentioned connection, okay? Actually, in the Dzogchen tradition, they don't speak about connection. They speak about indivisibleness, because connection means we're now connecting. I wasn't connected, now I'm connecting. You with me? It takes us out of that frame, and indivisibleness is always there. I just didn't know it, okay? And there's always a you. They don't even use oneness, because they don't want oneness to be a fusion state. Because a lot of times we're in oneness and refuse. A lot of times we think we're in oneness and we're into an enmeshed fusion state. You with me? And then we suffer what everybody else suffers. You with me? But you also have a good time too. Yes.
Yeah, so I remember an experience that lasted about 45 minutes when I was outside, and there was no separation between me and the grass and the trees and the sky. And it was not fusion, because as that was happening, my entire body was infused with this aliveness, and I knew even more who I was at the same time.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Beautifully said, huh? That. Now, here we are. Unobstructed with this unborn space of the nature of awareness. I exulted in this awareness, this play of empty exaltation, when appearances and sounds and incisive knowledge have the female Buddha's nature. Clinging to Pure Lands is misleading. The label sublime mother in the narrow path of attachment. Take away all these pictures, please. The label, there is no Dakini outside of me. I look within. I'm entering into awareness in its unfoldingness, and that is her. And discover the mother, the victorious ones within myself. How exhilarating. Means I have this quality of generation. This is never-ending happiness. How amazing. This is the kindness of my holy Lama, the blessing of the Lama's profound instructions. I sing this joyous, exalted song, and I sing upon reaching the summit of my aspirations. And then he goes through all the different other things that are sources of support initially, but he dissolves them. So we do the same thing with the Sambhogakaya realm. A-okay? So let's do this now. We'll sit for a second. So let's pair up then, okay? And then next week we'll work as a group, but let's pair up right now. I want to get back to our tantric practice, our erotic moments. Hi, Rick. Hi, Anne. Hi, Elizabeth. Who can you see who's on there by phone? Who's on there by phone? Hello, Rick.
I think it's Dan.
Okay, Dan. That's okay. Great. That's great. If you guys want to work together on who are on Zoom, you can. Who is it? You know. If you can, it's better not just to have a phone there. You don't have to do that today, but in general, I like really seeing who's there. I feel voyeuristic when I keep wondering who could that be, you know? So it's better to be seen. The part of the challenge is being seen. Now, if you're really sick, you don't have to be seen, but it's better to be seen, okay? Because it all has to do with becoming, the invisible becoming visible, right? This is a course on the invisible becoming visible, I hope. So it's best to be seen. So it's that's faith. That's great. Then okay. Oh, that's fine. That's faith. No problem. That's great. Do not worry. We don't want to be nuts about this either. Okay, that's great. You guys are. So let's focus on each other now. You can come sit over here if you want. We're going to focus. So I'd like everybody to, you don't have to come on Wednesday at 8 o'clock, but I'd like people to start exploring for themselves the archetypal dimension. You with me? What that means for you and how you can relate to that. I always remember when Yan Chen was here. I'm going to tell you, I know you heard this story, but I'm going to say it again. One time there was a dinner in Montreal for some of the people who he knew, about 20 of us. Most of them didn't eat because they could bijou. They could live off of the energy. Of course, I was eating. Never got that wonderful state, but I'm Italian. I wouldn't want it, you know. So, but here's the point. He stops and he has a person bring around in a very beautiful cloth, and he gave each person there a medal of Yan Chen, Kuan Yin. And so he was saying, not unlike when Buddha did that, in the Buddha handing in the paramitas, and I forget, you know the story where Buddha passes the flower? Someone knows that story. Tom, you know that story? Where Buddha passes the flower? The last talk, and he gives the flower, they got held up. So he just passes the thing, but he was saying, this is the archetype that stands behind me and with me, Kuan Yin. That's why we have her upstairs so blatantly. So you guys understand what I mean by that? So I would like everybody to take a stretch and find an archetype, what fits for you, whatever that means, the archetypal dimension, the cosmological dimension. And there's a lot of range with that. So we're going to sit with each other. Let's extend to each other right now. And I'd like everybody to sit a little closer where you're actually touching. Great. And I'd like as we touch, I'd like us to touch into the body, to let your touch go into the person. Just for you, their knee, their body. And you want to touch from the field. Now, I would like you to go into your lower body. Do not worry. And I want you to focus on the sexual energy for a little bit. However you do not go into fantasy. Do not go into imagination. And actually fantasy and imagination aren't the same. But don't go into fantasy. Focus on the energy. Feel the resonance between you and the other person, and we'll bring the energy up with simple little pranayama, little sniffs, or just little. Up to the navel. The navel is the most difficult doorway. Without any force. All these doors open from the inside. If your doors are open, it will help open the other person's doors with the resonance. If their doors are open, it will help your doors open. Let me go up into the belly now. Leave your bellies hang out, please. Do not contain the belly. Now up to the little doorway beneath the breast. Into the doorway. Up. To the throat, palate of the mouth, open your mouth for a moment and go into the breathless breath. You may be there already, as if you're breathing that breathless breath into the person. Up through the nose, eyes. Now, holding awareness, stabilizing for the whole body. Stabilizing. You let the energy come into your eyes, to the palate of your mouth. And then if you want, I'd like you to gaze into the person, maybe just opening your eyes just a little bit. Do not lose the state. This is the tricky part. You may even look a little fierce. Sometimes fierceness helps this. Doesn't mean you're mean, you're just a little fierce. Allow the energy moving through your body to come through your eyes, those channels. into the other person. Allow the echo through the columns. And you can feel the energy open above your head. There are centers above the head. Sustaining the full body gaze. Now we're going to pause. We're going to step back for a minute. Then we'll pass our little microphone around. And then if we don't mind, I really mean the word briefly. And I'm only going to have one side of each couple share. So just pass the mic, and then we're going to share briefly what your experience is. Voila. Sari.
Powerfulness is what I am experiencing. And I briefly saw the lion-headed Dakini.
Thank you so much. Briefly, one person from each side is going to share.
In the beginning, I saw Dorje Yudroma, and her hand was in the Abhaya Mudra. And I felt the complete fearlessness and felt the energies just totally rise up through the channels. In a way that was so resonant and easily metabolized.
Thank you so much.
I felt my body filled with eyes, and the energy fully embodied. And when I opened my eyes, it seemed so clear, like I was surprised how clearly I could see Steve, and still feel in that the fullness of the experience at the same time.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Right now, when Elizabeth said metabolize, I felt this, we had this blue sky-like sphere in between us, and my body just opened up, and each cell started drinking it in.
Thank you so much.
For me, I felt more of a, I could, for the first time, I could feel the other and feel the column more strongly, and how we were doing this together, me being in my own body, Robin being in hers, but feeling the connection.
Thank you so much. Kathy Krejci's here today. Great.
New Jersey, yeah. I could feel the energy rising throughout my body, and just a still movement. And currently, right now, it's just this solidity of energy between Chris and me. So experiencing myself along with her energy and her being.
Thank you so much. Let's see, here we go. Here we go.
As I extended initially with the archetype into Janie's body, I had that experience of the indivisibleness of it, and yet the two-ness of both of us. And as it progressed, I started to experience the archetype changing, and Janie became her own archetype.
Thank you so much. So, we'll do this again next week. So, we'll again be focusing on archetypalness. And I really appreciate everybody sharing their experience of the archetypal realm. And we can think, if you'd like, you can think this. Sometimes I'm in my mind. I'd like to know when that is. Sometimes I'm in awareness, in this ordinary life. And I like knowing. Why don't you all pay attention, guys? You can talk in 2 seconds. One, I'm in my mind. So I would check in. Am I in my mind? Because the mind is very, very powerful. Number two, I'm in my awareness, and I'm experiencing the realm of awareness right now. Now, I'm in the archetypal realm. And they get very close, right? They're very close. They become more and more liquid. They become more infusive. The boundary between them, the dissociative boundary, slowly thins. Say yes if you understand what I'm saying. And in the Dzogchen tradition, you really would like them being both together. And then you see the world as some of you guys were describing seeing just now, okay? Number three, I'm in pure awareness, Pure awareness. And then there's a fourth one called Sambhikakaya. I'm in all of them simultaneously. And this is why also integrating our mind is actually part of this. So in this whole thing, this is not anti-mind whatsoever. If you want to really be in this world in non-duality, you have to experience it in duality within non-duality, right? They go together like a horse and carriage. And sometimes when people just try and see non-duality as some ways, it's really not only more difficult, I think it's a bit iffy. You with me? And it can be done. But it's hard to negotiate it in total when you have this total non-dual state, and even when it's a total non-dual state, there will still be duality, because there is duality, there is oneness and difference in it. I thank everybody for coming today. We'll meet again next week, and we'll see everybody later. I've had a good time today. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Rick. Thank you guys for being here. Hasta la vista. Steve, anything by St. Croix? Nothing.
Just 175 mile an hour winds last night. 8 inches, 175. Nobody knows. I mean, there's no communication yet. I mean, there may be now, in the last 2 hours. Thank you. Scary.
Baby counter. It's so nice to just sit next to you. I feel your light.
So, thank you guys.